forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos. This is the Kaleidoscope block, and it's 12-inch finished. Here is the diagram, and we're going to make actually 4 units, and each unit will be 6-inch finished. So then we put 4 together and it's a 12-inch block. So I wanted to show you the basic construction of the Kaleidoscope block, and then we'll talk about a lot of different things you can do with this block. Here is one version of the 4 blocks set block to block, and you can see this definitely gives a circular design. And this is using these blocks here, the ones we're going to do today, and the ones that are up here. Here's another version down here. This shows the stars more on a white or light colored background. This is a perfect block to use with your lights and your darks, and you can use low volume prints would work wonderful in this. And this is the only block. This block and this block are exactly the same. The fabric placement is what gives you the different design. If you do a search on the internet for images of kaleidoscope quilts, your head will explode. There are so many different variations of them, and they all, if you look at them close, you'll see this one block, same block, but just the colors, the fabric colors are different, and the tones and the lights and the darks that make the different designs. So we're just going to go over the basics so you can color them however you like. Patch A is a half square triangle, and we're going to cut this oversized. You will see why we do that as we're piecing the block. Just cut a 3-inch square and cut it in half once on the diagonal. For the exact size, if you'd rather do that, cut the squares 2 5/8 inches and then cut them in half once on the diagonal. So you'll need 8 patches of the background and 8 patches of the red fabric. For patch B, we're going to use a 45-degree ruler, and we're going to cut 3.5-inch strips. Now let me describe the ruler to you because I know I'm going to get questions on this. The ruler we use is a 45-degree ruler. I found in my studio this ruler called Triangular by Heather Peterson, Anka's Treasures. When I looked on the website, tried to do research of where to find this, I couldn't find the ruler. I believe you have to buy a book and it comes with the book, but I'm not quite sure. But I'm going to show you have plenty of other options. So look in your set of rulers and see if you have a 45-degree angle. Let me show you what that is. I'm looking at my map. This is the 0 point. So the 0 starts here and it goes 1, 2, 3 this way and 1, 2, 3 that way. And if you look on here, you have a 30-degree angle, 45 and 60. I'm taking the straight edge of this ruler and putting it on the straight edge of this mat and move it over here. And you'll see that it lines up perfectly with this 45-degree angle. Okay? And then this straight line on the bottom of the mat. There's a little bitty triangle here that's been cut off, because it's easier to do that when you're piecing. You see that's a blunt edge there, and that is about, if I look over here and see how big that is, about a 1/2 inch. If you take a 1/2 inch off from the 0 point out and cut a line there. So anyway, that's neither here nor there, but that's the blunt edge, and it makes it easier to stitch it and to cut it. So you have this ruler, if you happen to have this with you. If I look at the Tri-Rex ruler, and I lay it down on this line like we did, and I move it over, I can see it's a much bigger angle than the 45-degree, but it's not a 60-degree. So the angle of this ruler is somewhere between 45 and 60, and so this won't work. Because if you know your geometry, or if you care, and there are going to be 8 sections in this kaleidoscope, and if you add up 45 times 8, which gives you the circle. So the Tri-Rex ruler is out. It won't work. Let's look at This is a clear view triangle, a 60-degree ruler. Okay, we already know that won't work because it's a 60-degree ruler. If we put it on here, it follows the 60-degree line. Okay, so that doesn't work. So those are the only ones I have. And you might have some other rulers and you can check them to see if they'll work. So this triangular ruler is the only one that will work for me. But I'll have a list in the description. There are 4 other rulers I found that are kaleidoscope rulers that will work for this. They're 45 degrees. One is Creative Grids, Kaleidoscope, and Dresden ruler. Quilt in a Day has a kaleidoscope 45-degree ruler. And Deb Tucker Studios, the 180 Studio, has one called Wedge Star. And then the other one I found was another Creative Grids from Edita Sitar, and it's called Alaska, and it will do those too. So check all those. If you're going to buy them, make sure that they do what's right for you, because I've not used any of those rulers, but this is just what I was doing in my research. Okay, now let's continue with the bee patch. This tells you how many patches you need of each fabric, and these are the little kaleidoscope pieces, the triangle pieces. So for this background, you're going to cut one strip 3.5 inches times the width of fabric, fold it in half and cut 16 patches. For the 8 patches you need of the blue and the black, you're going to cut one strip 3.5 times 20 inches, fold it in half and cut 8 patches of each of those. So these are just your piecing instructions here. Now I'm going to show you how to cut the triangles. I have a 3.5 inch strip and it's folded just as it came off the bolt. On the rulers you should have your markings 3, 3.5, 4.5, all the way down to however large the ruler is. You just place, in our case, the 3.5 inch line on the bottom, and it should line up with the top of this, and you just cut. And this is symmetrical, so you can have right sides together or wrong sides together. And then we'll cut this side off. So there we have 2 pieces. And then you can either flip the ruler or you can flip the fabric. And I like to go this way with it. It's easier to me to do this way. So you line up your 3.5 and then your top and this edge and cut. And then flip it again, like this, and cut. And so that's how you cut from your strips. Before we start our cutting and piecing, I wanted to show you the samples I made. The inside of this kaleidoscope are exactly the same. They are tan and blue, 4 of each. So I call this one a dark square and I call this one a light square. What makes it dark or light are these corner pieces you put in. These are the triangle pieces. And so if you put those together, these alternate and the light and dark alternate. And that's what starts to get you some type of pattern. And so when I talk about a dark block, that's what this is, the dark triangles. And a light block is the light triangles on the outside. That's just the way I do it. That's not a standard thing in quilting. That's just what I call it. Also included in your instructions, there's one page that is for foundation piecing. And it has, you'll piece it in 2 parts. You'll have A part and B part. They're pieced exactly the same. You just start at number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and you're finished. Just be sure you set your printer to actual size and then you measure to make sure that they are the size you need. And here are templates. If you don't have a ruler, you can cut out these templates. And you'll also have to make sure that you set your printer to actual size here. So I've got the measurements here and you can measure to make sure these bold lines here, use that to measure, okay? So you have all these choices if you don't have the ruler. Now let's look at the fabrics I've chosen for this. These are my triangles. I'll cut these into triangles. Here are my kaleidoscope units. These are my already cut triangles for the corners, so we'll put these over here. And these are all the triangles for the center. So if I look at my diagram, I'm going to make two different ones. So one will be the background and the black, and the other will be the background and the blue. And we'll make two of each. So they're going to be sewn like this, and we start by piecing pairs. Let me just finish this. There. So you have 4 of each. And this is what you'll do first, is piece these together. Piece them in pairs. Now when you're piecing these in pairs, if you want to make sure you have your lights and darks in the correct spot, if I flip this over and match the top and the bottom and this side, so you match this side and then the bottom, and stitch, always put them this way into your machine. If I did it this way and stitched it with the white, with the background on top, and stitch that, then they won't come out right, because this will be like this and this will be like this. So you don't have your alternating pieces. You'll have to go in there and put another one of these in to make up for it. So just pick one way to do it, doesn't matter which way you do it, and do this 4 times. Stitch 2 together 4 times. Press the seams. Okay, you should have 4 like this, or they look more like this. We're going to piece them together like this. Flip them over and match this side. Really, everything should match at this point. When you put these 2 together, you want to first match as much as you can, but these seams here, you want to stack them. And if you fold this back and look, it's a little bit off. I need to move it over just a little bit. And those seams are stacked, so you'll have a nice look like this. They'll match. So flip that over, and you can also feel with your finger. And then stitch these just like this and press the seams open. Then you'll end up with 2 of these, and you'll stitch these 2 together. I'll show you with the blue ones. Here are the 2 blue ones stitched together and pressed. Now these you match, and you're going to use your pin to match these points in the center. Right where these 2 fabrics meet, or these 2 points meet, put your pin right there. Go all the way through, and then put the pin in the same spot on the one at the bottom. Right there. Hold them up, put them together, and make sure it's perpendicular, going this way into the fabric, then put it into the fabric. Put it down and match these sides. So match this side here. Start stitching your 1/4 of an inch, and as you're getting closer to here, take that pin out, stitch right above where the pin was put into the fabric. And then you'll miss that point. And you can really see where the point is since you've pressed your seam open. And then make sure these parts are lined up and continue stitching all the way down. And then you'll press your seam open, and this is what you'll get. Here's the back. Here's one finished, and we're going to do a total of 4. We're going to do 2 of these and 2 of the black and background pieces. These little nubs here, I would go ahead and cut all these off. Every single one. It's just a little bit, but you don't want it to get in the way. Now I have my 4 kaleidoscope units. I'm going to stitch the triangles onto the units to make them into a square. Right now it's an octagon. Let's take this one first, the blue and white. In our diagram, the blue and white kaleidoscope has red corners. You'll notice that the red fabric is sewn to the background fabric, so we have a dark corner and a light kaleidoscope. And in our design, that's what we want. We want to alternate the dark and the light. Now we cut these triangles oversized, so we'll take one of the triangles and we're going to stitch it on the background like this. And we'll do that for all 4 of the background fabrics. And since it's oversized, we're going to match the top edge here. And then this point, we want to try to center it as much as we can with this triangle. It doesn't have to be exact, but just try to get it as close as you can. Now stitch 1/4 inch across. And do that to all 4 of these light pieces of fabric. And do that for the other blue one as well. Now for the black and white, the dark and the light here, if you look at the instructions, you'll see that here again we're going to alternate the dark and the light. So the light triangle is going to be sewn against the dark kaleidoscope unit. So we'll take the light triangle and stitch them like this. And stitch them the same way as you did for the blue, and do both of your black and white kaleidoscopes the same way. This is what it looks like after you've pieced it, before you've pressed it. And now this is what it looks like pressed. And we're going to trim. You can trim in 2 different ways. You can take a straight ruler. You can use the kaleidoscope edges of all these 4 kaleidoscope patches. And to do that, you line up one here, and then take one of these lines from your ruler and line up this one here. You're lining up 2 to make sure you're square, and then cut. And you'll do that all the way around. Let's do one more. Line up this edge and this edge. The other way to trim this is to take a 6.5 inch ruler. And to use this ruler, you just line up all the edges of the kaleidoscope block with the edges of the ruler. And then trim off all the edges. So we'll get these edges first. And flip this around. Line it up again. And get these 2 sides edges. And now you have your 6 inch finished kaleidoscope block. We'll call this a block, even though for today's video we're making a 12 inch block where we put 4 of these together. And when we do this, we will put them together like this. I wanted to comment on why I cut these triangles bigger. First of all, I don't like cutting 2 5/8 inch squares and then cutting them in half. It's just, another chance to mess things up. And second, I can get a nice square block if I trim them down. But that's why I cut them oversized. I also wanted to comment that we made 6 inch finished blocks. You can call these blocks, but in our case there are units in our 12 inch block because we're putting 4 together. If you wanted to make this block, one of these, let's say you wanted an 8 inch finished block. On your ruler you will use the 4.5 inch line, and you would cut your strips 4.5 inches. Now let's just put the block together. We'll sew these 2 together and these 2, press the seams, and then sew the rows together. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos.